From ABC, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening. We begin again tonight with that Soviet freighter, which is in a Nicaraguan harbor. Does it have Soviet MiG fighter jets on board? Are Moscow and Nicaragua trying to pull a fast one on Washington? Is Washington trying to foment a crisis? The Reagan administration, ABC News has learned, has been having some intense talks between themselves and the Kremlin. We begin in Washington with ABC's John McCarthy.
ABC News has learned that high-level discussions are underway between the U.S. and Soviet Union, with the U.S. trying to convince the Russians that if there are MiG fighters on their ship, they had better not unload them, that it would be in everyone's best interest for the aircraft, if they are there, to return to the Soviet Union on the same ship they came in. Meanwhile, U.S. intelligence sources confirmed that no airplane-sized crates have yet been seen coming off the Soviet freighter. At the State Department, spokesman John Hughes acknowledged that the U.S. still lacks proof that MiG fighters are indeed being delivered to Nicaragua. But he also indicated that they could easily still be on the ship, that reporters should not jump to the conclusion that the incident is necessarily over.
You have to bear in mind the story is not played out yet.
Intelligence sources indicate that if there are planes on the Soviet ship, they are probably MiG-21s, and a dozen of these planes would drastically improve Nicaragua's ability to strike its neighbors and would therefore pose a new threat uncomfortably close to the U.S., a threat the Reagan administration says it will not tolerate. U.S. officials deny Nicaraguan charges, however, that the U.S. plans to invade.
No plans for an American invasion of Nicaragua. At the same time, we have used serious language in expressing our concern about the consequences of landing in Nicaragua high-speed combat aircraft.
Unrelated to the situation in Nicaragua, but hard to ignore because of it, are two major U.S. military exercises which are getting underway today. One is called Quick Thrust, and it involves the rapid call-up of some 15,000 troops, the kind of force that would be needed for an invasion. The other is a naval exercise in the Caribbean and Atlantic, which will involve some 25 ships. U.S. officials stress these military exercises have nothing to do with Nicaragua. They say if the MiGs are delivered, the U.S. would most likely respond with airstrikes, not an invasion. John McCarthy, ABC News, the State Department.
Well, the Soviets have not said anything specifically about the ship or whether it is carrying Soviet-made fighters. The Soviet news agency did say today the United States is spreading false statements in order to prepare the ground for an armed attack against Nicaragua using American troops. A little later in the broadcast, we'll have a report from Nicaragua itself. Still on the subject of Central America, it is not a well-known fact in Washington today, but one of the former leaders of the anti-government forces in Nicaragua has been testifying on Capitol Hill. His name is Edgar Chamorro. He has been telling the House Intelligence Committee in secret about the CIA's intentions, as he understood them, inside Nicaragua. Before going to Washington, Mr. Chamorro was talking to ABC's Peter Collins in Miami.
This is the Nicaraguan rebel force created and paid for by the CIA. The administration has always said the force is not intended to overthrow the Sandinista regime.
But let us be clear as to the American attitude toward the government of Nicaragua. We do not seek its overthrow. Our interest is to ensure that it does not infect its neighbors through the export of subversion and violence.
But a former director of the rebel force remembers his talks with CIA agents somewhat differently.
Did anyone from Washington ever discuss with you overthrowing the Sandinista government?
I mean, that was the only purpose we always discussed with the American was that.
Chamorro recalls a secret meeting in Honduras a year ago. The CIA's top officer in charge of Central America was visiting.
This top American executive who told us that it was time to have a shadow government, that we should control the territory.
The shadow government would be set up in a captured corner of Nicaragua. The U.S. would recognize it and would encourage other Central American governments to help the rebels. At the same time, the CIA was telling them how to sell their project to the American public.
So we were coached on things to say to Congress or to the press.
Patrick Leahy is a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee.
The idea of setting up a provisional government, in other words, overthrowing the standing government, of course, is absolutely contrary to the presidential directive and congressional mandate.
Chamorro is speaking out now, he says, out of a sense that he and the rebels were cynically used by the CIA. He says you don't reduce people to means or tools, you treat them as human beings with dignity. Peter Collins, ABC News, Miami.
Later in this broadcast, one of the president's cabinet members who intends to resign, and there may be other changes. The Space Shuttle Discovery, off on a rescue mission, and a revolutionary house design that may just leave your head spinning.
This is World News Tonight, brought to you by the Whirlpool Corporation.
You're about to see a dishwasher do something absolutely amazing. Clean dishes and save energy too. The Whirlpool Power Clean Energy Saver Dishwasher, with a patented washing system that gives you remarkably clean dishes, yet uses 20% less hot water in the normal cycle than any Whirlpool dishwasher we've ever built. And like our washers and refrigerators, it comes with the Whirlpool promise to give you your money's worth and make your world a little easier.
America was born with a dream that says in this great land, each and every one of us has the opportunity to build a life that's rich and rewarding. At Prudential Bache Securities, we believe in that dream. We can show you how total financial planning can bring you a richer life for today and tomorrow. Call us. We're Prudential Bache Securities. America, bring us your future.
Just 2 days after the election, we learned that President Reagan's Secretary of Education is going to quit his job. Terrell Bell said today that 4 years on the job is a long hitch, and he is resigning for personal reasons. As ABC's Sam Donaldson reports, this may only be the first change in a second-term Reagan White House.
Ronald Reagan came to the presidency promising to abolish the Department of Education. But now, after nearly 4 years, the only thing changing is the department head. Terrell Bell said he's stepping down for personal reasons. He praised the president's commitment to school reforms and a continued federal role in education. The president accepted the resignation with deep regret. And the question now is, who's next? It is believed Secretaries of State Schultz, of Defense Weinberger, and of Treasury Regan will all stay. But others may not be so certain. Labor Secretary Donovan, on leave while under criminal indictment, says he'll be back. But many are betting he won't, even if he's acquitted. Jean Kirkpatrick has let it be known she wants out of her post as UN ambassador. She'd like to be Secretary of State, but if that doesn't open up, she might move to the White House post of National Security Advisor, which would mean Robert McFarlane would have to be given another job. CIA Director William Casey has the president's promise he can stay as long as he wants. But a growing anti-Casey faction in the administration hopes that won't be for very long at all. And there are reports that Housing and Urban Development Secretary Samuel Pierce wants out. But Chief of Staff James Baker said today Pierce has agreed to stay on.
I know specifically that the president spoke to Secretary Pierce and wants him to stay. And he's planning to stay. Now, I'm not going to stand here and run through each one. I've told you I know of no plans for anybody to leave.
With all respect to you, that's what you told us yesterday, and today Terrell Bell has resigned.
Well, that's possible, and tomorrow someone else might decide that they can't stay. And I don't.
And what if Baker himself, widely thought to want to move on?
Well, what I've said all along, Sam, is that I am going to do what the president wants me to do, and I think the president wants me to stay, and I'm going to stay.
Changes or not, the cast of players in the second Reagan term will probably resemble that of the first in at least two important respects. There will be enough conservative ideologues to maintain the same political flavor, and enough hard-nosed pragmatists to continue to make things work. Sam Donaldson, ABC News, Santa Barbara.
George Will is with us tonight from Washington. George, you have heard Sam's report. Let me ask you if you see any particular personnel problems at the White House.
Well, they have a kind of gridlock in Washington, I'm afraid, Peter. To begin with, Jim Baker served a long time in a very grinding job, would probably like to run something of his own, possibly the CIA. But Bill Casey, who differs with Mr. Baker on a number of issues, would probably stay at the CIA just to block Jim Baker. Jean Kirkpatrick has been at the UN 4 years. Lord knows she's suffered enough. She might like Bud McFarlane's job, and Bud, some people say, would like to be ambassador to Israel.
What do you mean she's suffered enough?
Sitting at the UN as the United States representative, listening to third world rhetoric for 4 years is enough to drive anyone batty, frankly.
Okay, I'm sorry, go on.
She's done that. Bud McFarlane might like to go to Israel, but no Secretary of State wants a very strong person such as Jean, with whom Secretary Schultz has had some differences, over right next to the President in the National Security Office. Finally, the supply-siders all have the long knives out to get David Stockman. His crime is believing that we might indeed need a tax increase to balance the budget. So Washington, I guess, after the election is getting back to normal, which means it's a rather decorous jungle at the moment.
George, in your experience, why does anyone really leave one of these cabinet jobs except to go make some money?
Well, sometimes I wonder, Peter, how we get good, competent men like Ted Bell to come here in the first place. They uproot their families, they plunge into the Washington real estate market for the privilege of working for not great pay, long hours, being pounded upon by interest groups, having their privacy invaded by the confirmation process, and at the end of long days they have to go out to dinner parties, and frankly most sensible people would rather go to the dentist than to the average Washington dinner party.
George, thank you very much. Of course, they continue to do it. Changes in personnel are not the only thing being worked on these days at the White House. The budget is getting a pretty good close look as well. As our economics editor Dan Kortz tells us in tonight's Money Matters, it didn't take long before reports of possible changes in the tax system began to surface.
President Reagan has long insisted he won't accept any tax increases.
Over my dead body.
And a Newsweek report that Budget Director David Stockman and White House aide Richard Darman have devised a tax reform plan that would also bring in more revenue was firmly denied by the administration today.
December, I'm not aware of anybody else working on any tax simplification plan or any other tax.
Well, what if Darman and Stockman should present such a plan to the president?
Well, I don't think that's going to happen.
But a study group under Treasury Secretary Donald Regan has been reviewing tax reform options that include cutting or eliminating some deductions now in the law. For example, if the deduction for interest on loans other than home mortgages were dropped, that would bring in $9 billion more in taxes during the coming fiscal year. If company contributions to employee pension programs, which are now tax exempt, were treated as income, that could bring in as much as $66 billion. Thus, personal income tax rates could be cut substantially, but taxpayers' overall bills might still go up. Sources close to the president, though, say it will be months before a tax package will be sent to Congress. Meantime, we can expect many more rumors and denials. On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 4.5 points, extending its post-election slump. That's Money Matters for Thursday. I'm Dan Kortz.
And speaking of money, when we return, trying to raise some for John DeLorean.
Not long ago, in an ancient town not far from Rome, some European restaurateurs gathered to taste some imported wines. The wines were all of high quality.
Buono.
But one wine in particular attracted special attention.
Elegante.
A wine from America.
Questa è un'uva della California.
When asked to guess the price of the wine,
10.000.
most of the tasters guessed between $7 and $10.
Penso 15.
Except that is for one. An Italian restaurateur named Francesco Giambelli.
Nemmeno $3.
How could Signor Giambelli have been so sure about the price of the California wine? Because the wine the tasters chose that day
Gallo, per favore.
was the same wine he'd chosen years ago for his own restaurant in New York. The best-liked white wine ever made in America, the Chablis Blanc of Ernest and Giulio Gallo. From Ernest and Giulio Gallo, all the best.
I'm climbing a mountain of 270,000 packages and letters, which is just about what Airborne picks up and delivers every week. 3 years ago, when Airborne started challenging Federal, this mountain was just a molehill. Then we began delivering most of our packages before 10:30 a.m. And today, more and more people are switching to Airborne than ever before. At Airborne, we'll move mountains for you. So watch out, Federal. Here comes Airborne.
One day later than originally planned, the Space Shuttle Discovery took off early this morning. The astronauts are going to spend more than a week in space, and one of their missions is to save an investment. As ABC's Lynn Sherr reports, once again, the astronauts are trying for the first.
From the moment it moved off the launch pad, NASA started bragging about the newest feature of the shuttle's pickup and delivery service.
Liftoff of Discovery and the first flight to retrieve and return satellites from space, and the shuttle has cleared the tower.
Commander Rick Houck had promised the biggest birthday candle of his life to a crew member who turned 36 today, and when the flame was spent, NASA's camera clearly caught the two rockets falling away. By this afternoon, the 5 astronauts had obviously adapted well to space.
So far, so good.
That's mission specialist Joe Allen. He and birthday boy Dale Gardner in the foreground will try to capture 2 communication satellites that wound up in the wrong orbit after they were deployed from another shuttle last February. Discovery's pilot, Dave Walker, will maneuver the space plane to within 35 feet of the target.
As we slow and slow and slow till we just coast up to it. Kind of the way you'd put your boat in the berth if you had a big sailboat and you had just paid an awful lot of money for it.
Then Joe Allen, hitched up to the jet backpack, will attach a specially designed grapple fixture to the satellite. The fixture is vital because these satellites weren't designed to be retrieved. Once the device is in place, astronaut Anna Fisher will use the mechanical arm to bring it back into the cargo bay. Dale Gardner is scheduled to repeat the procedure 2 days later to get the second satellite. NASA gets $5.5 million for the salvage operation with no guarantee this bold and risky venture will succeed. If it does, it makes the shuttle more versatile than its competitors. The rescue begins on Monday. Lynn Scher, ABC News, New York.
Some science news here on Earth. The doctor who first implanted an artificial heart in a human patient 2 years ago has been given the go-ahead to try a second such operation. Dr. William DeVries, now associated with the Humana Hospital in Louisville, Kentucky, says he is screening potential patients to receive the artificial heart, and an operation will begin a few days after a patient is chosen. As president of his own car company, John DeLorean made millions of dollars. Then he was arrested and charged with trying to make a cocaine deal to save his floundering company. DeLorean was acquitted, as you know, but at a cost. Here's ABC's Gary Shepard.
It was last August that John DeLorean was acquitted by a federal jury here in Los Angeles of all charges in his sensational cocaine trafficking case. His assets frozen by court order, DeLorean had run up legal bills estimated at $1 million. One reporter asked him how he was going to pay.
If I could get every American to send us $2, we'd be all right.
Yeah, maybe $1.50.
$1.50, that's what we need.
DeLorean may have been kidding back then, but he's not kidding now. This week, he spent $5,000 for a full-page ad in the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner telling readers his life has been ruined by the federal government, that he's being persecuted by the Justice Department, and asking supporters to send money to his defense fund. The ad includes this post office box address for contributions. The advertising agency says DeLorean himself wrote the ad. And the response?
It's been incredible. The phone has been ringing all day long here at the agency. From early this morning, we've received calls as far away as Dayton, Ohio, people wanting to know the P.O. box number to send money to the John DeLorean Defense Fund.
DeLorean's advertising agency says if the response to the local newspaper ad here is encouraging, the former automaker may go national with his appeal to the public for money. The ultimate goal is to raise $1 million. Gary Shepard, ABC News, Los Angeles.
When we come back, that late report from Nicaragua.
Nowadays, it seems everybody's comparing himself to a banker. Savings and loan folks say they can give you financial counsel like bankers.
And we're just like a bank.
Stockbrokers say they can manage your transactions like bankers.
And we're just like a bank.
When others go so far to say they're like a banker, isn't it nice to know that the one helping you really is a banker? The only place you'll find a banker is the bank.
A message from America's full-service banks.
It splits the dark with a powerful beam. Spotlighter rechargeable light from Black & Decker. A light built so strong it can survive a drop of 6 feet. Stored in its own recharging base, Spotlighter's ready on a moment's notice to give you light. Light for your safety and peace of mind. Black & Decker Spotlighter. It's one utility light that does more than just shine. Also, there's Spotlighter SL2, the rechargeable personal security light from Black & Decker.
Every day, all over the country, demanding test drivers put Buick Century to the ultimate test. The hill climb challenge. The suspension ordeal. The handling course. The water torture. It is, in fact, the truest test of the century. The real world. Your world. Now, wouldn't you really rather have a Buick?
In the evening, ain't we got fun? You know, a Carnival cruise is more fun than anything. We have 5 fun ships, and we go to all the fun places. The Caribbean, Bahamas, Mexico. So for your next vacation, remember, sunny weather, all together, we've got the fun.
Sail for 7 days on the world's most popular cruise line, Carnival Cruise Line.
As we said at the beginning of the program, the United States and the Soviet Union are having some pretty intense talks about a cargo on a Soviet ship which is docked in a Nicaraguan harbor. In Nicaragua itself, all eyes are on the ship. Here's ABC's Ann Garrels.
Today they were unloading the Soviet freighter Bakuriani, and access to the port area was restricted. Even though the U.S. still believes MiG fighters could be on board, the cargo unloaded so far appears to be small ammunition cases. There are no reports of boxes large enough to carry MiG fighters. Covered with tarpaulins and surrounded by tight security, the cargo is being taken to Managua in Soviet-made military trucks. If indeed the ship is carrying MiGs, U.S. diplomats say neither the Nicaraguans nor the Soviets would risk unloading them now. The Nicaraguan foreign minister says any reports of MiGs in Nicaragua are inaccurate.
On the issue, I totally deny the charges that have been made all through the night last night over American television, that there's a boat coming from the Soviet Union that was bringing MiGs to Nicaragua. That's false.
Yesterday, Nicaraguan anti-aircraft gunners opened up on what they claim was a U.S. spy plane flying over the port. This morning, residents in Corinto say they heard a loud bang. Privately, U.S. officials admit this was the distinctive sonic boom of an American SR-71 spy plane. The Nicaraguans are protesting to the U.S. the second such flight in a little over a week. While a foreign minister claims the Nicaraguans have no MiGs now, he does say they will get them in the future if they need them. For months, the U.S. has charged the Nicaraguans are constructing this airfield large enough to handle advanced fighters. People in Corinto are worried the U.S. will bomb them. With U.S. Navy frigates offshore, what all this has done is heighten invasion fever. The military is on alert, and people defiantly declare Nicaragua is not Grenada. Ann Garrels, ABC News, Managua, Nicaragua.
In the Middle East today, the Israelis and the Lebanese, under the auspices of the United Nations, sat down to talk once again about getting Israeli troops out of Lebanon. There was a carefully crafted triangular table. That way the Israelis could say they were having direct talks with an Arab neighbor, and the Lebanese could say it wasn't so. One meeting in the Middle East never makes for an agreement. The three parties agreed to meet again on Monday. Yet another attack today on civil liberties in Chile. The military government has announced broad new restrictions on free speech and political gatherings. 6 opposition publications were banned, and all news about politics and terrorism is to be censored. The government of President Augusto Pinochet is cracking down on all demonstrations against continuing military rule in Chile. And now India. Across much of the country today, at least some of the Sikhs have come out of hiding. Since Prime Minister Gandhi's Sikh bodyguards killed her a little more than a week ago, India's Sikhs have been the victims of widespread violence committed by Hindus. The Indian Army was deployed at many Sikh temples so they could celebrate one of their holiest days, the birth of their sect's founder. ABC's Mark Litke is in New Delhi.
For the Sikhs, this is supposed to be a joyous day of celebration. It has been a somber day of prayers and mourning. Those wounded in the vicious attacks of the past week are still being treated in many temples. Others are still afraid to return to their homes, like these 2 boys who haven't forgotten their brush with an angry mob.
To save our life, my mommy made me a girl.
Dressed you like a girl?
Yes.
Many don't trust the government's assurances that it's safe to return home because they believe government and police officials actually helped in the attacks on their community.
Police officials were identifying Sikh homes and families.
Yes. And now leaders of Indian opposition parties are also echoing those charges, accusing authorities of gross dereliction of duty.
So one cannot escape the conclusion that the people in authority are to be blamed for what has happened. It could have been avoided.
Government officials call those charges baseless and malicious, but they know full well they're politically explosive for Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi and his ruling party. So in recent days, party members have been leading highly visible marches for communal harmony. The army has remained posted to protect Sikh communities, and Rajiv Gandhi has met with Sikh leaders, promising monetary compensation to all who suffered losses. But at relief centers where thousands remain homeless, some are refusing to accept any aid, saying they've been humiliated by their own government. Sikh bitterness is not likely to end soon. And sadly, Hindus still paying homage to Mrs. Gandhi's ashes will not soon forget Sikhs were behind the assassination. Despite all the pleas for harmony here, the religious animosities that plagued the end of Indira Gandhi's life will remain India's most pressing problem for some time to come. Mark Litkey, ABC News, New Delhi.
When we come back, we'll report on a house that is revolutionary.
To help American business remember better what American business has to remember, help is on the way. Introducing Elephant Premium Floppy Disks for Business. They're designed to protect your data when other disks won't. Elephant Premium Floppy Disks, because Elephant never forgets.
This year, 1 out of every 6 cars will need to have its brakes repaired. That's why at Midas, we offer a free brake inspection. If your car needs work, you know it's being done by experts. 500,000 people a year have their brakes fixed at Midas, and we're glad to have the business. But more important, we appreciate the trust.
Trust the Midas touch.
I'll never vacuum my bedroom again. I'll never vacuum my dining room again.
From now on, I'll electric broom with a 3-speed Regina electric broom. It's easier to electric broom.
Lighter and faster. And my floors look beautiful.
From now on, I'll electric broom.
It saves me time for the things I really enjoy.
Don't vacuum, electric broom. There's a choice of 3 Regina electric brooms, and now the 2-motor electric broom power team.
Tonight on 2020.
Vengeance or justice? Was the right man convicted as the Atlanta murderer? Wayne Williams speaks out to Geraldo Rivera in an exclusive interview.
Are you the monster of Atlanta?
Watch 2020 tonight.
Finally tonight we have a story about the kind of house that many of us may have dreamed of owning at some time or another. Have you ever gotten tired of looking at your neighbor's barbecue or wishing the southern exposure in the living room faced north? As Don Kladstrup reports from the French city of Nice, some people's dreams have come true.
When he was very young, this is what Francois Labby liked to do. Today, he is still going around in circles. Not on a merry-go-round, but on a house that goes round. It's a reflection, he says, of his fascination for things that turn. These days, neighbors' heads are turning. But Labby's house is not really designed to be looked at. It's designed to be looked out of. At the flip of a switch, a wheel, something like an electric-powered Lazy Susan, starts turning the house toward the view Labby wants. Toward the mountains, if that's what he feels like looking at. Toward the forest and valleys. Or the sea. In addition to the panoramic benefits, Labby says his turning house could be an energy saver, since the glass front and ceiling readily absorb rays from the sun. It takes only 3 weeks to build a turning house. The price, about $70,000. Labby already has orders for 200 in Spain, most for holiday use. He's now trying to market them in the United States. Home sweet home? Perhaps. But who do you call if your house breaks? Also, turning houses don't exactly match the architectural style of American neighborhoods, or any neighborhoods for that matter. And sometimes, as this man discovered, it's difficult to find the front door. Not good if you're expecting friends, but not bad if it's the bill collector. Don Kladstrup, ABC News, Nice.
That's our report on World News Tonight. For everyone at ABC News, I'm Peter Jennings. Good night.
Tonight, Geraldo Rivera looks back at Atlanta's child murders and interviews convicted killer Wayne B. Williams. Tonight on 2020 on ABC.